We live in a culture which hates the body and loves language. A logocentric culture. It's partly Christianity, it's Plato, it's all the poisons at the base of our culture which make us think this way. But as a result, the only time we use gesture is when we can't actually hear what we're saying. We're stuck in a traffic jam, we can't be heard in the next car, we want to tell them something, and we make a gesture, probably one involving a finger and an orifice. And or else cinema hasn't yet evolved the sound mechanism which allows dialogue, and therefore you have silent film. Carl Theodor Dreyer, making much nicer films than anybody's making these days because he didn't have sound. And he could draw on this ancient tradition of commedia dell'arte, which is also the tradition of the mime. So what I've done for you today, on the birthday of this elderly mime artist you see on the left-hand side of your screen, is I've made a kind of dialogue between two performers. It's Momus doing the groin thrusting right now, and then it's also this actress, or model rather, for a brand, a pseudo-Finnish Japanese clothing brand called Minä, which means eye butterfly. And it's a very butterfly kind of imagery that they promote. It's one of quiet dignity, tradition, nature, and folk dances, and we can see Momus doing the folk dance. The Minä girl is in the forest, but she's not dancing, she's simply drifting. She's drifting like a cloud. She has some elegant red stockings. She's perhaps Little Red Riding Hood. Perhaps this relates to grim fairy tales. She's wholesome and dignified and infantile at the same time. She's like a child who's grown up and slowed down, a kind of slow-motion child. Momus, meanwhile, is copying a gesture which David Byrne copied from an ethnographic film of an African ritual, which could also be seen as some kind of return to an enchanted childhood, the childhood of mankind. Now he's making a very exaggerated distinction. He looks like a traffic policeman a lot of the time. His gestures, they're really the kind of gestures which Brechtian theatre uses and calls gestus. That means showing the relationships between two people or more in the form of gestures, which Brecht called quotable gestures. And that didn't mean stereotypes, it meant a kind of essence of a social relationship turned into a particular shape of the body, a particular motion, a particular gesture. This gesture where he's weeping and saluting, that comes from a nervous heartbeat song. Momus, you see, is a songwriter, and of course a lot of these gestures started as words. They started as lyrics in songs, and because he performs abroad where people don't speak English, he's forced to develop gestures as a fallback. Meanwhile, the Minä Pahonen girl, if she's considered to be in the same world as Momus, which I think we should consider, she's looking at him now, she's not very impressed. He's trying to do these horsey dances, or he's trying to walk through hot chewing gum, or he's simply standing still, or he's boxing, showing that he could be a plucky little fighter. But she's really impassive in her floppy coat with its floppy pockets, and even the upper hook doesn't impress her. She lives in a world where violence doesn't count. It gets you no brownie points. Here he is, he's walking through molten chewing gum again. It's obviously very uncomfortable, thumbing his nose, and he's a kind of extraterrestrial, or kind of Marsden of the marshes. Now he's an assassin. He's shooting Abraham Lincoln in the theatre, and he's going to ask Mrs. Lincoln whether she enjoyed the play. Often there's just a cigarette paper of irony between his satire and a genuine murderousness or racism, or see, now he's pretending to be sexy but also trying to be really sexy at the same time, pretending to send up the whole notion of sexiness. She, meanwhile, is not, I would say, not deconstructing anything. He's being a sort of Dionysian figure that Picasso posed as in one of his photographs, and Momus copied from Picasso. She's being a rabbit. This is her aspiration, to be a forest creature. He wants to parody authoritarianism, but also to embody it. He wants to have his cake and eat it. Now he's doing a sword fight dance, which is a kind of aggressive ritual he does in a song called Tinnitus. stabbing at people with his sword and shouting, "Ah, gah, gah," like that. He's actually descended from sword-fighting clansmen of Scotland, of the Highlands and the Islands, and his great-grandfather was a ship captain. Now he's on the beach at Brighton or Portsmouth in a David Bowie video, Ashes to Ashes, and he's touching the ground with a bulldozer behind him. Now he's being Aladdin, and he's kicking, but he's not really succeeding very easily. It's actually quite hard when you're as old as he is, such an elderly actor, mime artist, quite tiring to do these gestures. The Mina Pahonen model is modelling reindeer because, of course, she's pseudo-Finnish. She's a Japanese idea of Scandinavian civilization. And something has been lost in translation, but also you have to say something's been gained in translation. He's trying desperately to communicate with her. He doesn't speak very good Japanese, so all he can do really is skip and hope that she skipped when she was a girl and she recognizes something familiar and comforting in this skipping gesture and likes him. Oh, she is responding. Yep, she's definitely moving, making a little can-can gesture. But on the whole, she's as impassive as ever. He's getting a little bit tired and feeling autistic. He's standing with foot in hand talking to his wall now because she won't listen. If she did listen, she wouldn't understand. All they have is the universal language of gesture. And he's a sort of extraterrestrial. He's sort of expressing his alienation from Japanese society. That interests her a little bit. She is looking. She is coming towards him now. He's a gondolier. He's rowing a boat, perhaps on a pond in London. And she's a passenger waiting by the side of the pond. He's decided to be a gondolier because it's more romantic. Now he's moving towards where she's waiting. She's getting her place at the front of the queue now, her red shoes. And he's going to be her gallant gondolier. She gets onto the gondola. He starts trying to seduce her. Now this is definitely unprofessional conduct. You should not seduce your customers. If you're a gondolier, you can at the most sing them a song, a folk song of Italy. No, she's got off the gondola and now he's eating his lunch, which he has found in a sausage tree. There's a tree with sausages by the side of the canal. He's eating them in a rather prissy way. He's finished lunch. She's another customer, but he's no longer the gondolier. Now he's a Swiss guard, perhaps. The Swiss guards of the Pope. I think the Pope is coming to Venice. Yep, he's working out in the gym, making sure he can protect the Pope. It's the Pope's bodyguard, and he's back to the chewing gum walking, the gloop that he was walking through before. He's proving all the exercises, that he needs to stay strong and good Swiss guard protector. She, meanwhile, is in a dreamy world of twirling, slow-motion skirt twirling, with leaf and flower patterns and birds. And he's a flight attendant. She's at Marco Polo Airport, about to take her flight back to Japan. He's saying, almost adjust the buckle so, and if, in the unlikely event of cabin pressure being lost, masks will automatically deploy. Put your own on first before helping others around you. Don't smoke in the toilet. No. Cut up the cigarette, stamp it out on the ground, because burning airlines give you so much more. She's not too impressed by that message. She's hoping for a smooth flight back to Japan. He's definitely an authoritarian cabin steward. You have to be. This is one of the most authoritarian situations on earth, being on a plane. Power has really gone to his head. I think he's a traffic policeman now. Perhaps he's telling people they can't use the toilet because they're encountering some turbulence. Yep, he's handing out a ticket. It's a ticket to a passenger who has been unruly, and now he's being actually racist. I think he's imitating a rapper. He's either doing a critique of racism or he's being racist, and of course there's just a cigarette paper of irony between those. Now he's being sarcastically sexy. This could either be sexy or it could be sexist. She's confused by this, definitely intrigued, but she's decided to go to the beach and to impersonate Morrissey on the top of a rock. He's meanwhile impersonating her a very, very racist impersonation of a silly Japanese girl, knock-kneed and bow-legged and slanty-eyed, and she's having none of it. She's waving a flag of freedom, raising the standard of her own autonomy. She's definitely clogged and ready to go. He, meanwhile, is being homophobic now, going through a whole litany of political incorrectness. He's pretending to be a very effeminate gay man, and that's it. What next? Oh, now he's impersonating and satirizing affectionately a mime. He's in the usual glass box, which has its closing doors and walls which keep pressing in on the mime, threatening to squeeze him, squash him, turn him into gloop, into hot melted chewing gum. He's stepped out. We're supposed to be relieved. He's relieved. We don't necessarily feel the same. We think he should have become compressed into a sort of oxo cube of gesture.
Open University.